In this video, I'll be going through the 48 laws of power, and today we're going through law number 13, law number 14, and law number 15. Law number 13 says, when asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. If you want someone to help you, don't spend time reminding them of how many wonderful things you've done for them in the past. Trying to guilt people into helping you by reminding them of what you've done for them is a very weak move, and you will almost certainly lose respect. Instead, show people how by helping you, they can benefit. Appeal to their self-interest, because let's face it, we are all a little bit selfish, and we act in ways that will benefit us. So if you can convince people that they have something to gain by honoring your request, you are far more likely to get a yes. A typical example of this law in effect is when parties happen. Most of the people who attend parties are not there to pledge their undying loyalty and friendship to the host. No, they're there because of free food, free drinks, the chance to meet members of the opposite gender. It's unlikely that people go there just for the host. Most of the people at parties have never even spoken to the host. They are there because of the incentives. When hosting a party, you don't go around telling people how wonderful you are. You tell people that there'll be food, there'll be drinks, you tell people who else will be there. The only people who can host a party and not give out any incentives are celebrities like Barack Obama. But even then, it's an honor for you to be invited to such a person's party. So we still act because of our own self-interest. Another example is if you want to buy something, but you can't afford it. If you want the price to be lower, you don't just ask and expect the seller to be merciful. Rather, you offer something for this discounted price. It may be that you have 2 or 3 people who are also willing to buy the product, and you're willing to give up their names so that the seller can get more sales. This is the kind of thing you do. You appeal to people's self-interest, not to their mercy. Instead, convince them that they have something to gain by helping you, and you are far more likely to get them to comply to your request. That's law number 13. Law number 14 says, pose as a friend, work as a spy. As humans, we naturally have a guard up. We're vigilant when we meet people for the first time, as we should be. But this can be annoying if you want to get information from somebody who barely knows you. At that point, the only hope is to pose as a friend and work as a spy. You might think that in day-to-day life, spying doesn't happen anymore. But you would be wrong. Spying happens more often than you think. When your prospective employers investigate your social media, you are being spied on. When people ask you outlandish questions just to see how you will react, you are being spied on. When your girlfriend's family invite you to their house for the first time, you are being spied on. It's not typical spying in terms of espionage and secret agents. It's a more undercover spying, but it's spying nonetheless. This law is necessary when you're having those days where you just want to play it cool, keep a low profile, stay incognito. We all have those days, but it's when we have those days that people tend to want to pry even more. It's as though they're intimidated by silence and mystery. When you're having one of those days, just be aware that there's some people who are just dying to get something out of you, and they might be posing as a friend when in fact they're working as a spy. This law can be used in conjunction with law number 2, which says never put too much trust in friends. It can also be used with law number 4, which says always say less than necessary. If you aren't speaking, even the most experienced of spies will not get anything out of you. That's law number 14. Law number 15 says, crush your enemy totally. It's not enough to merely defeat your opponent. You must vanquish them. You must obliterate them. You must annihilate them. And the reason for that is this. If you do not completely destroy your enemy, you give them a chance to come back. And no foe is more formidable than the foe who has been on the brink of defeat and has managed to claw back into battle. We see this happening all the time in sports. How often have we seen a team that's just about to lose, but as the game approaches a close, the losing team seems to find energy from who knows where, and they start to come back and eventually they win. The same thing happened in The Lion King, one of my all-time favorite films. Scar is on a quest to become king, and the only person standing in his way is Simba, who is the natural heir to the throne. Scar is plotting to become king, and he does everything perfectly, well, almost perfectly. He orchestrates the death of Mufasa, and he gets Simba to think that it was Simba who killed his own dad, and he gets him to run away. The only thing that Scar does not do is to completely crush his enemy. Instead of killing Simba, he tells Simba to run away, and never return. And what happens? Simba does return, and in the climax of the film, Scar and Simba have a fight, and Simba defeats Scar. This is by far one of the most important laws so far, and I'm not talking about crushing your enemies in terms of crushing people, but there are bigger enemies that we have to grapple with. Habits that we may have, which we might want to break. Addictions, which we may have. These things have to be crushed totally, otherwise they will come back into our lives. For instance, if you know that when you wake up, your enemy is mindlessly scrolling through your phone, put your phone in another room when you go to bed and get an alarm clock instead. Or if your enemy is pornography, limit the adult content on your phone and let your friend put in the password or the passkey so that it's only them who can access such websites. You've totally crushed the enemy. It's impossible for you to access these things anymore. Or if you struggle with binge watching Netflix or eating certain foods, get rid of them entirely. Don't even go near to them. Crush the enemy totally. You must do everything which can be done to make sure that these things do not make a comeback. Because if they do make a comeback, they tend to come back with a vengeance. Everything that can be done should be done to crush the enemy. I've said that in about 3 different ways because this is so important. That is law number 13, 14, and 15 from the 48 Laws of Power. If you liked this video, I'm certain that you will like my other videos on the 48 Laws of Power. You will find them here in this playlist. Until then, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also turn on notifications so that you can be alerted whenever a new video is released.